what's up, audience? uh, I hope, you know, if you catch me talking with that fucking corporate intonation, you know, please shoot me. Please shoot me immediately. You know. Hopefully, it will never come to that, though. I'm gonna keep it real. Say what's up, what's up. How you been? You been good? Me too. But that brings me to one topic that I want to talk about. The energy weather. I don't know how about you, but last few days it was pretty heavy energy. I don't know why people are not really talking about this as a day-to-day reality. Well, actually, I do know why not. And yes, don't worry about it. I'll tell you all about it. So, you know why not? It's because we think that there's somebody outside of us to blame. Energy weather is like every day has a specific type of quality, okay? And it's pretty much encoded. It's not exactly random. Harmonic calendars and like Mayan calendars, they speak about that, and maybe I'm gonna make a video about the harmonic calendar, which is pretty cool stuff. And they speak about the properties that every single day has, the 7 day cycles, which goes it's a time spiral, and it corresponds to, you know, your chakras, energy centers, whatever you want to call it. I don't want to make it too new age, but it goes like from 7 to 1 to 6 to 2 to 5 to 3 to 4. This is the time spiral, you know. And so it corresponds to each point, and every day within those 7 days cycle has its quality. Sometimes you feel like you not don't want to do anything. Sometimes you have a lot of energy. Sometimes you know, blah 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 blah. So you get the point. But those are 7 cycles. And by the way, they don't correspond to the Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. They don't correspond it because every time it's different, you know? The Sunday in this calendar would be the last day, right? Here. That would be the Sunday. And the Sunday is heart. Heart where it's stillness. There's no motion. That's where you rest. The God rests on the seventh day, you know, biblical stories. That's what happens right here. So the real Sunday always changes. Okay? Sometimes it's Sunday on Thursday, sometimes it's Sunday on Saturday, sometimes Sunday. You get the point, right? This is why you may feel always kind of off when you're trying to live by this calendar. You see, like, we don't question that. We say, oh, that's a calendar, so I'm gonna take a day off, you know, on this weekend. But it's kind of, you know, you don't feel like working when you're at work, and you feel like doing something when you're resting. Like, what the fuck is going on? These are the natural energies that are happening, that we're not going with the flow. We're creating these Gregorian fucking calendars that are wrong. There are 13 cycles of the moon every year, but this calendar has only 12. And so, going a little further into that, those 7 day cycles have 28 day cycles, and there's 4 weeks that fits in 28 days. That's 28 days is the moon cycle, right? The first week is the seed week, those 7 days, right? the second is the egg, the third is the flower, and the fourth is the fruit. So then that's why in the nature, your body corresponds to this. Everything's physical goes through that cycle. So menstrual cycles, for example, right? They relate to that. So that's why there's one type of state within the first week, another, and stuff like that. And your body may be changing as well. You'll be like, what the fuck? Why am I, beefed up this week, and why am I kind of skinny this week? It's because of the cycles, natural cycles. And that's not a secret. People do a lot of gardening and farming using those moon cycles with a lot of success. Okay, so, and then I also have to add, I'm not going to go too much into this, but there's a 20-day cycles as well. And these are 20-day cycles which correspond more to what you would call the mind or astral cycles. These are the energies that are not physical, but they are mental, if you will. They affect our thoughts, not the body, but our thoughts. Okay. And they also have its features, right? This is why you may thinking one thing one day, another thing another day. Okay, so I can tell you this by living alone in the jungle. I can tell you this is that all these energies that happen every day, these emotions that you're feeling, they don't happen because there's people in your life or there's events in your life, you see? Because this is what usually happens. Like, we go through life and we think, oh, that event happened, that's what made me feel bad. That person did this to me, that's what made me feel bad. It's all in reverse. No one's bothering me here, yet I'm experiencing all of these energies every single day. So this is why it kind of pays to pay attention to the energies of the day, right? And so if the energy is one, and then you see an event, somebody cuts you off in the traffic, or whatever, look, it's the energies that are happening, it's just the way things are. Then of course we may rush in to start blaming people, but it's not like that. They think about this. If you want to see it more in the physical terms, something happens with the sun, electromagnetic fields, boom, affects the earth, electromagnetic fields of the earth, and then boom, affects the nature in your body too. And so now, as that energy came in, now you're acting in a certain way. Right. Now, if you're not conscious, that's what's going to happen. It's just basically moving you like a marionette. All these energies are moving you like a marionette if you are not conscious and if you're acting still from your belief system. But if you start becoming aware of these energies, these say one energy comes along, and instead of being moved by the energy, you meet that energy. And bring it down to peace, if that's possible. Feel the energy, zero it out. Actually, that is a bit of a process as well. Every day brings you a certain type of energy that we ought to neutralize it with peace, and then find the positive emotions about that and create whatever we want, right? It's a breath of life, if you will. The negative comes in, you neutralize it with neutral, and then you find the positive. about it. It's a natural process that's happening. And it happens automatically if we face the energy rather than, you see, it's like, imagine the pool of fish swimming, right? And then one fish swimming against the whole pool of fish. That's pretty much what it's like. That's the actually right direction of life, but we are all moved by it rather than move it. So that brings me to, again, two directions of life. It's not that, there are two directions of light, period. Whether you like it or not, there are two directions of life. In Bible they were saying, the tree of knowledge and the tree of life, right? There's two directions of life. One is developing ego, and another one is developing soul. Once that ego is developed, there's nothing else to do, because once the ego is at the maximum, that's pretty much hell, and then you have to start breaking down all your shadows and start moving towards your soul, right? Some theorists say that there's no need to even have developed the tree of life. You don't need to develop the ego to live in the direction of your soul, because it's almost like it's happening by itself, right? In the real time, so you don't have to accumulate it. And I guess this might be true, but if you have accumulated and you lived in this direction, then you gotta turn around and start living in another direction. Rather than moved by the emotions and energies, you start meeting them, transmuting them, finding the positive, and only then taking action. Then only then taking. You don't act from the negative emotion, because negative emotion is not something for you to act from. Negative emotion is for you to neutralize it. Find the positive about it. And I have to say one thing: if a negative emotion arises, and someone is, or you, or somebody else is trying to put a positive on it immediately, it don't work. It creates conflict between positive and negative. Sparks conflict. You see? You can notice that in your life too. If somebody is, for example, feeling negative, and then you come up and it's like, hey, Chira, I don't think it's gonna go well. You may get punched in the face. But if you give space to that person, and you are genuinely in peace and a neutral state, little by little that negative emotion is going to get neutralized. And once it's neutralized, then you can go into the positive. You don't even go to the positive, it just happens. Upon neutralization of the negative, it goes into positive. You can see sometimes, like a quick life example, once you, for example, get startled by something, you see something scary, but then you realize it's nothing, and then you start, kind of laughing about it. There's first there's this fear, and then laughter. It's just a little example for you to see how it works, but of course you can see. So, don't put the positive band-aid on the negative emotion. That's still toxic. That's a toxic positivity. You have to neutralize it first. It's just the way it is, right? It's just the way it is. Your heart is that neutralizer. And so, if there are two directions of life, you can see what's happening today with people, um, and you can see this like, what the fuck is going on, right? There is this idea of acceptance of self-expression, but then you look at that self-expression, you say like, that is fucked up, and so, well, don't be judgmental, no, I think I'm going to be judgmental, okay? Because if there is a right direction of living, that is certainly a wrong direction of living. And so it's like, be acceptance, like, no, hold on a fucking second, what the fuck are we doing here on this planet? Are we here to express ourselves, right? But there is a bit of a trap. When people are losing their shit, they're essentially getting a psychosis, and they start doing crazy ass shit. Like, for example, it's not a genuine, it's something morbid about their self-expression. You can see that the person is self-expressing, but you can see it's a expression of suffering. It's an ego, and so then everybody, yeah, you do that, whatever you want to be a fucking dolphin, yeah, you have a right to be what the fuck you want. And so everybody is applauding the wrong direction of life, the wrong expression, and shut the fuck up with this like, oh, there's no right and wrong. While we're playing this game, there is right and wrong, okay? And sure, in order for you to realize that what's right and what's wrong, sure enough, you have to be in a state of neutral state, so you can actually see what's right and what's wrong. But don't play this game. Don't play this game with me. And be careful with this accept me as I am bullshit, because what are you accepting? You know what I'm saying? Like, the true meaning of that is you accept as they are, as they really are, not as they condition to be, because that is propagation of hurt, confusion, psychosis. It's not a good direction of life, okay? It's towards hell. And this is what you see what's happening. And there's this deranged acceptance, and it's really tyranny masquerading as empathy, you see. So you have to be careful. Don't be naive about this, because yes, you should celebrate self-expression of the soul, not of the ego. Ego is not to be expressed. Ego, the only purpose of ego is just like manure for the flowers. It's not to be expressed. It's to be transmuted, and then you find out what you really want. So if the person is tattooing nonsense or whatever, and they're protesting about nonsense, and you see that self-expression, no. And a lot of art is like that, and they say that oh, that's art. No, that's not art. That is a abomination. And we have to get our shit together about these things. We can't just applaud and celebrate these deranged expressions. There's one way where you express yourself, and maybe you put certain type of clothing, whatever, you change your haircut, whatever. Maybe if you create something, you have certain creativity through the music. That's the real soul self-expression. And even, for example, you can see in parenting, the first nugget of parenting really is that facilitate expression of the soul in the child, and discipline expression of the ego. Don't let any of the tantrums to slide by. All of them has to be transmuted into expression of the soul, because child will never be grateful to you if you let them do anything they want. You let them do what their soul desire, not what ego tantrums for. And that's the art of parenting. If you figure that out, and you be such a good parent that you don't let any of the tantrums slide by, and facilitate the expression of the soul, and if you're aware of what that is, and then you are raising a healthy child. You know, not that there's no challenges, there are challenges, but you are also always allowing yourself and your child to develop towards this direction of the soul. Okay? At no point you should say like, oh yeah, but that's just him, or that's just the way it is, but you could see it's dysfunction in it. No, that's not the way it is. That's some sort of conditioning, that's some sort of shadow that needs to be disciplined. And every child should be taught this process when the negative emotion comes along and they're throwing a tantrum, you let the child calm down, put your own energy, you don't get involved in it, because once you get, sometimes parents just get involved and start arguing with the child. You never do that. You if the tantrum is ongoing, you just give space and stays in peace in yourself until they calm down. And when they calm down, when the emotion is neutralized, then you explain what they really, find out what they really want. Because ego tantrum is basically, if they don't get what the soul desire, then they get ego tantrum. If they desire love, and they in some form, whatever, and they don't receive it, then they will throw a tantrum. But that could be opportunity to see what they really desire and give them what they really desire. You see what I mean? This really is that simple. And so be careful with this, because if you have that axiom of value, that's very important. Because sometimes, for example, somebody would come. I want to talk a little bit about projection, you know. And some people, so you see a person, and let's say you judge a person, and you say, yeah, that something is messed up, whatever. And then people say, well, don't be judgmental. No, you may not be judgmental in your heart, meaning you don't have like emotional reaction to it, but that's perfectly fine to discern. It's perfectly fine to discern and say, this is something messed up. And let's say they may say like, well, you're projecting just your own bullshit. Well, hold on a second, because the reason I could recognize that something's wrong going on is because I have already dealt with my bullshit. That's why it's become such a contrast to me. So this is why it's always from this as well. It could be true that somebody's projecting their bullshit if they're acting from the shadow direction. And it could be also true that you're just perceiving. You're not projecting anything, you're perceiving of what's going on. And the reason you can perceive it is because when you don't have your own bullshit, the perception is clear. You can see what the fuck is happening. And in that sense, you can discern and judge all you like. It's the right thing to do. Right thing to do. Don't believe in this fucking new age bullshit that like, oh, don't be so judgmental. Fuck you, motherfucker. There's a type of judgment that is necessary to discern that direction. It's crucial. If you don't fucking discern, you're on the way to hell. So, all these new age spiritual bullshit things that they're actually talking about, they're talking about the ultimate reality, which it is important to have in the background of everything. But yet we're living this life. We're playing this game. There are structures in this game. We have to understand what's the fucking point of life. We have to understand if we really want to go in the right direction. Um, we have to use our discernment. We have to say no. We have to learn to say no. Say this is some abomination. I'm not saying yes to this. I'm saying no to this. I'm being judgmental, and I'm being discerning. You see, this is like it would be the most worst and most horrible father who would just let anything fucking happen. You know what I'm saying? Um, you can't do this. You have to discern. You have to smell the bullshit and always correct it. And if the person gets, upset about being corrected, that's good. That's good. Because that's really just their negative beliefs burning and throwing tantrums. You know? And so a lot of people out there should be corrected. Absolutely. Who's gonna correct them? They're gonna correct themselves? That's not gonna happen. It's not gonna happen. They're not gonna correct themselves. Um, they don't even see when somebody is on a direction of their ego development. They don't fucking see it. Then they're not clear. There has to be somebody around to show them the way until they figure it out, until they see the structure of life and they see what's been happening, that they've been developing the suffering and calling it self-expression and whatnot. Anyway, I think that's enough for today. But everything boils down to this, and it's a most simple thing. It's just a code, you know what I'm saying? Like it's a tree of life and a tree of knowledge. That the dark and the light. The same way in everything is structured. The way the governments are structured, the way everything, if it's structured with this code of corruption, it's bound to self-destruct. It's bound to create suffering and stuff like that. See, and that is not necessary. That is not necessary. That is absolutely not necessary. It's a virus. Because negative emotion and some amount of pain in life is necessary. It's part of life, right? But what we do with this is important. If we go towards the direction of our soul, we take that negative emotion, we neutralize it, we find the positive, and we create our desire. That's the right direction. We don't accumulate ego. As soon as it comes in, transmute, gone. As soon as it comes in, transmute, gone. Every single person can do this. Some people can do it, it may take time. They may throw a tantrum and they be pissed off for a day or two after realizing, oh my god, I just was a fucking jackass. What the fuck am I doing? And then they can just come clean and then get into neutral, and then they realize that what they really desired is there for them. Positive emotions, success, joy, happiness, all those other things. So yeah, I'm calling it that there is no need, because everything can happen in the real time. You see, there is a purpose of ego momentarily. You see something you don't like, you may get angry, get pissed off about it, right? But then you neutralize it, figure out what's up, and very short-lived. Ego is very short-lived. but there's not that fucking development of ego. You know, there's one belief building another fucking belief on top of it, and negative, 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 and then you have a fucking stack of negative beliefs, and now it's very difficult. I don't know what the fuck is really, like, when I see with a little bit more clear eyes. What I see is that the ancient societies were structured in the correct way. The so-called modern society is structured in the wrong way. And you see what I mean? That you can't correct it now. You can't correct it now. You have to start building a new one. Like, I really don't see how else this can happen. It's not a little change. It's the reverse. It's you live a life in reverse. Just like that Real Player One game, right? The movie. He won the game when he started going backwards. But the question is, what the fuck is going on? Why everybody is structuring their lives in this direction? And then everything else becomes coping mechanisms, industries, perversions to cope with the shit that you built up, where you don't even have to build it up in the first place. I'm going to talk a little more about this breath of life and the correct direction of life. And you see, like, well, I think that's enough. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.